set in South Korea. The film takes place in a prison where the protagonist, the leader of the Incheon gang, and Jong-hun, the leader of the Mokpo gang, fight for power to the point that the guards must subdue them with high-pressure hoses and attack them with their batons. Even so, the inmates do not desist and defend themselves with their nails and teeth, locked up but never defeated. Upon witnessing this disaster, the prison warden, Mo Young, complains that this will ruin his chances for promotion and wishes that at least one of the criminal leaders be transferred to another prison. However, Won Jong, the head of security, warns him that wherever they go, they will cause problems. Instead, Won Jong grants preferential treatment to both criminals in order to maintain peace between them. One day, the protagonist tries to enter the showers with a hidden blade. Although a guard notices and makes it clear that even Won Jong's agreement has its limits, the indignant protagonist responds that he will never stop until he kills Jong-hun with his own hands. For the moment, the head of security keeps them at bay in their respective cells by sending them their favorite dishes. However, their peace is threatened by the news that Taek, one of the most dangerous mob bosses in Korea, will be transferred to the prison. While the warden believes that it will mean more problems, the head of security is sure that the arrival of a more powerful predator will calm things down. For their part, the protagonist and Jong-hun meet in the courtyard with the intention of proving, once and for all, who is the strongest of the two. Therefore, each member of their gangs faces off hand to hand, and when one of the two loses, he is immediately replaced by a companion to keep the fight alive until the end. A fight full of brutal blows, painful locks, and flying kicks. Even the guards are enjoying the show. Finally, the moment comes for both leaders to face each other, resulting in a very even combat in which their gangs get involved, which marks the limit for the guards, and they stop the matter again. The protagonist ends up being scolded by Won Jong, who points out that he is too old to bother with a young gangster like Jong-hun. As punishment, he prohibits the protagonist's conjugal visit from his girlfriend unless he coughs up some money. After that, the head of security receives Jong-hun and makes it clear to him that he must respect older people like the protagonist. In the end, the next day, the fearsome Taek enters the prison, and as soon as he sees him, Jong-hun mentions that he looks familiar. Upon hearing that, Taek stares at him, something the young gangster doesn't like. However, the new prisoner puts him in his place with a single kick. Due to his peculiar introduction, the guards assign him to a solitary cell. Although Mu Yang and Won Jong promise to treat him well during his stay in prison if he takes care of controlling the protagonist and Jong-hun. For his part, the protagonist tells his men about the time he met Taek 10 years ago. At that time, Taek worked for an important mafia as a security guard, and in defense of a lady sought by the rival gang, he beat up a young protagonist and his colleague. Remembering that, the protagonist warns his men that they should respect the new inmate and gain his trust. The thing is that when they present themselves to him, Jong-hun's men do the same, resulting in a struggle for Taek's favoritism, who, far from choosing just one, convinces both leaders to make peace. In gratitude, the head of security and the warden fulfill their promise to treat Taek like a king, giving him food and more, although he refuses to fully enjoy his luxuries. In parallel, the prison gangs that were once rivals discover that they have many things in common and have fun like never before. Mu Jeong cannot be more pleased about this and assures Won Jong that when he is promoted, he will cede his position as warden to him. At the time of his farewell, Mu Young informs that he will be transferred to a women's prison, and to go out with a bang. He invites a group of beautiful singers to entertain the inmates, who in turn have fun among themselves in a talent show. But not everything is happiness, because after Mu Young's departure, Won Jong does not become the new warden, but that position is occupied by Peon Ho, a veteran of battles who does not plan to give a truce to the prisoners. As soon as he is installed, Peon Ho complains about the state of the prison, so Won Jong respectfully reminds him that they have just been selected as a model correction thanks to the positive changes achieved by Take. Far from being happy, Pian-ho is offended that the head of security takes pride in the inmates and even claims that he has become one of them. As punishment, he hits his backside with his golf club, as in the old days. Having done that, the warden reveals that he does not plan to stay too long in that place, since he has only come for Take, under orders from Pian-ho. Won-jong interrupts the inmate's rest time and beats up one who refused to leave his cell. Surprised, the protagonist asks him what is behind his change of attitude, to which he responds with a simple but forceful phrase, "New warden, new rules." While the prisoners clean the courtyard, the warden orders the guards to search the cells for illegal things. Of course, they do not take long to find cigarettes, erotic magazines, and other objects that should not be there. Consequently, the inmates are forced to bathe in less than 30 seconds per turn, and they are thrown out of the bathroom regardless of whether they still have shampoo. Upon leaving, Pian-ho asks them for the owner of the cigarettes, and if they do not confess, soon everyone will be punished with an extension of their sentences. Even so, the ones who receive the worst treatment are Take, the protagonist, and Jong-hun, who are thrown into individual cells just for being the most respected among the inmates. At that moment, Take recognizes Pian-ho's face and asks him how he ended up in that place. With great calmness, the warden reminds him that he swore to pursue him to the depths of hell. This takes us to a flashback in which we meet Jan-ho, a young gangster who, on a night of drinking, solicited a few ladies of the company to have fun with his colleagues. The problem is that the girl he chose for himself, Jae-ran, did not want to drink alcohol. So he tried to force her with blows. The scandal attracted the club's manager, Take, who was guarding this place on behalf of the Mafia he worked for. Unfortunately, not even his presence calmed Jan-ho, who broke a bottle and launched himself to attack him. Take simply stepped aside, so the gangster fell off the table and landed right on the bottle, dying instantly. It turns out that Jan-ho was not just any criminal, but the son of Pian-ho, and the reason why he wants to end Take, who swears that his son sought his own destiny. Even so, the warden managed to convict him for 5 years in his previous prison and plans to keep him behind bars for the rest of his life, taking advantage of illegal objects he planted in his cell. Take screams in frustration, with which he only manages to get himself chained to the ceiling to receive a beating. But not even that stops him from challenging the warden. Meanwhile, in the courtyard, some prisoners pretend to faint from exhaustion so that one of them can jump the wall. However, the guards do not take long to capture him, and they punish all those involved in an exemplary manner. In an attempt to increase Take's sentence, Won-jong tries to get the protagonist and Jong-hun to confess that he is in charge of the contraband within the prison, although neither of them dares to say a word against him. The next day, Horan passes through the prison with the intention of visiting Take, whom she married after he saved her from Jan-ho. However, Pian-ho makes her enter his office and offers her a spiked coffee. As soon as she falls asleep, the warden takes a photo of her with her chest uncovered. After that, he orders them to bring Take and promises him that he will sell his wife into a prostitution ring as revenge for what he did to his son, Jan-ho. The prisoner squirms in despair, but unfortunately, he can do nothing but watch a punishment that seems excessive to Won-jong. In the next scene, we see Pian-ho offering Jong-hun conditional release, whose sick mother is about to die and wants to see her one last time. To do this, he must help the warden extend Take's suffering. It seems that he accepted that offer since he leaves prison right under the protagonist's nose, who cannot believe how they cut his 4-year sentence. Meanwhile, in the isolation ward, an elderly prisoner named Duok gets Take's attention and warns him that the warden will not stop until he breaks him. Well, the protagonist does not plan to allow it, so he sets out to escape from prison with the help of Duok, who knows this place better than anyone. As the first step of his plan, Duok summons a guard with the excuse that Take is dead since he does not hear any movement in his cell. Upon opening it, the guard finds the prisoner on the floor, who stops pretending to be dead to knock him out and take his clothes. Having done that, he says goodbye to Duok, promising him that someday he will help him get out of prison. Disguised as a guard and with a mask, Take approaches the protagonist discreetly and tells him about the warden's plans with his wife. Immediately, the protagonist's men form a human ladder in an attempt to escape. That is, the perfect distraction for the protagonist to have a way out. Along the way, Won-jong manages to see him from behind, although he does not fully recognize him. As soon as the guard wakes up, everyone finds out about Take's escape, something that does not bode well for the warden, since he will soon receive a visit from an inspector whom he wants to make a good impression on. At least he has some suspicion about the place Take will head to, so he tells Jong-hun to be prepared. He was not mistaken because the protagonist bursts into a club run by Jong-hun's Mafia with blows. Once the criminals are defeated, they confess their boss's whereabouts. There he reunites with his mistreated wife, who comes back to life as soon as she sees him. Unfortunately, his problems have not ended, as he still has to face Jong-hun and his thugs. Seeing that it is not trivial, the mobster confesses that he had no choice, and even kneels before the protagonist to ask for forgiveness. Or so it seemed, because he stabs him with a knife and confesses that he only wanted to see his mother one last time. The wounded Take knocks him to the ground and then runs off with his wife. After several clashes with thugs in the alleys, the couple hides in an abandoned house where Take asks his wife to notify the police about his escape. Having said that, he goes to finish this matter once and for all. Upon meeting Jong-hun, he beats him multiple times on his wound, but Take takes advantage of one of those approaches to take the knife from him and use it against him. Then a repentant Jong-hun communicates with a colleague reporter so that the country knows the truth about Pyeonho. Just then, a group of reporters burst into the warden's meeting with the inspector and ask him about these rumors. Intrigued, the inspector takes Pyeonho's phone, discovering the photos of Horan and that he was hiding a prisoner's escape. The warden is arrested immediately, and Won-jong does not plan to say anything in his defense. For their part, an injured Take and Jong-hun help each other to return to prison and serve their sentences. Due to the act of injustice against him, the protagonist gains his freedom in a short time and bids a fond farewell to his friends, especially the protagonist and Jong-hun. At that, he turns his gaze towards the new warden Won-jong's office, giving him a gesture of respect. The movie ends here. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel.